Dr. James Marcus is honestly one of the most underrated villains in Resident Evil. His death and resurrection in Resident Evil 0 was the beginning of the end for Umbrella. He made his first and only appearance in RE0, but he is extremely important to Resident Evil's story as a whole. Welcome to Bird's Tales, the show where we take any character from any media, break down their lives, and analyze their character. Today's subject is Dr. James Marcus. Pretty much like every founder of Umbrella, not much is known about James Marcus's early life. However, he was born sometime in 1918. Marcus graduated university in 1939. During this time, he became friends with Earl Spencer and 5th Earl Ashford. He also associated himself with other influential members in biology, such as Dr. Beardsley and Dr. Henry, just Henry. This circle would become extremely important to the eugenics movement. During the early 1960s, Dr. James Marcus became a professor at a Swiss university. There, Brandon Bailey became his apprentice. I talked about him in this video. I hope I put the card up there. During this time, Dr. James Marcus and Earl Spencer grew an interest in Henry Travis' book series Natural History Conspectus. Henry Travis' series tells the story of his 35-year journey through Africa. Dr. James Marcus and Earl Spencer were particularly interested in his journey through the region of Kajuju and the flower Stairway of the Sun. It was written that the flower killed many who consumed it, but those who were able to survive was granted strength. Dr. James Marcus and Earl Spencer would come up with the conclusion that the flower contained a virus, and it was the virus that would either grant strength or kill those who consumed it. They also believed that this virus could help them in creating the Ubermensch. Oh god, you can tell I wrote this script before the other two videos I made. In my script, I wrote that Edward Ashford went to Africa with them, but as you already know if you watch my other video, Bird's Tales Untold, I kinda already talk about why I don't think Edward Ashford was there to discover the progenitor virus, even though his sons say he was and Albert Wesker say he was. But I talked more about that in that video, so you can just go to that video if you want to hear why I say he wasn't there. Anyway, in 1966, Dr. James Marcus and Earl Spencer, alongside Brandon Bailey, went on an expedition to Africa to retrieve the flower Stairway of the Sun. They were successful, and after examining the flower, they indeed found the virus. The virus was then dubbed the progenitor virus. They were also successful in retrieving some seeds. After returning back to Europe, James Marcus and his apprentice Brandon Bailey began examining the virus further. Earl Spencer, Earl Ashford, Earl Beardsley, and Dr. Henry did their own research on the progenitor virus. Out of all of them, Earl Ashford will be the closest to creating the T-virus. I only say this because something like that is written in Wesker's report, but I talk more about that in my video Bird's Tales Untold. And in that video, I mentioned that his research will be used to create James Marcus's T-virus and Oswald E. Spencer's T-virus. Since James Marcus and Brandon Bailey possessed the seeds, they began to try to grow the flower at the Swiss university. However, the flower grown in Europe did not possess the progenitor virus. They then came up with the conclusion that the flower needed a specific environment to produce the virus, but the environment that they knew it could produce the virus was not a great place for research because the Nidipaya people would attack. In 1967, Marcus was fired from the university, so now he couldn't do his research at the university's laboratory. Then Spencer came with a solution to one of his problems. He let Marcus and Bailey do their research at his estate, but the English noblemen who funded this project and did their own research on the progenitor virus weren't that rich. So Oswald E. Spencer came to Dr. James Marcus and Edward Ashford about his plans for them to create a pharmaceutical company. Edward Ashford would agree to the plans, but James Marcus wasn't too interested in business. After some convincing, he would eventually agree, and in 1968, Umbrella was formed. As I mentioned, Marcus really didn't care about business, so he mainly focused on his research. And around that same time, Marcus and his apprentice Brandon Bailey realized that if they don't get more samples of the virus, their research wouldn't get anywhere. So Marcus and Bailey planned a trip back to Africa. However, as I mentioned, the cave where the flower could produce the virus was not a great place for research because of the Nidipaya people. Then Spencer came up with a solution to that problem. Why don't they just hire some mercenaries and kick those savages off of their land? Pretty popular when he was growing up. I'm sure that's what he said. said, and that's exactly what he did. However, before Marcus and Bailey could leave, Spencer would request that Marcus go to Raccoon City to be the director of their new training facility. Bailey would head to Africa and become the director of the facility there. He would be responsible for supplying every Umbrella facility with the progenitor virus, and Marcus would leave to the US to become the director of Umbrella's new training facility. Around this time, the three Umbrella founders' relationships slowly began to crumble. They competed on who can create the T-virus faster. I think Edward Ashford was ahead of the other two, and to Spencer, Ashford was the biggest threat to his plans. And in July 1968, Edward Ashford would be infected with the progenitor virus in an accident orchestrated by Spencer. He would die soon after. At the facility, James Marcus will make the assistant director responsible for a student's education, while he focused on his research. Even though Marcus didn't enjoy the idea of becoming an educator again, he did keep an eye on the students, and was left disappointed for almost every year. Marcus even found time to record this.
This is Dr. Marcus. Please be silent as we reflect upon our company motto. Obedience breeds discipline. Discipline breeds unity. Unity breeds power. Power is life.
Which is the company motto. However, as I mentioned, Marcus was more focused on his research. He tested on a variety of different animals, even using some of the students at the facility for his research. One of the reasons why I feel he used the students at the facility for his research was because he viewed all of them as useless to the company. And if they are used for his research, they are now useful to the company. However, human test subjects was not where he saw the most promise. Instead, it would be his leeches. In the year 1978, Marcus noticed two promising students, and they were everything the company needed in researchers. They were ruthless and completely dedicated to their research, one more than the other. The two students were William Birkin and Albert Wesker. He made the two his apprentice, and he even allowed them to help with his research. Marcus loved the fact that the two competed with each other, and he even encouraged it. Around this time, Marcus was successful in creating the prototype T-virus by mixing leech DNA with the progenitor virus. Marcus never stopped experimenting on animals and students, but now he could use the prototype T-virus. To get some of the students infected, Marcus would trick them into touching his leeches that possessed the T-virus. Marcus observed the students as they slowly mutated into dead things with no brains. In the year 1978, the training facility was closed for students, and James Marcus's apprentice will be moved to the Arclay laboratory as senior researchers. I should have mentioned this in my Birkin and Wesker videos, but they became senior researchers as a gift for studying a sample of Marcus's T-virus. Marcus stayed at the facility and continued his research there. Marcus became extremely paranoid, fearing that one day Spencer would kill him and steal his research. This would cause Marcus to isolate himself, with only his two proteges having access to him. Marcus continued his research on many species, but he wanted to focus more on human test subjects, and with no more students, he had to test on other people, including children. Marcus tortured many of his test subjects in the torture chamber seen in RE0. He also put the children in gas chambers. Gas chambers? Really? Oh my god, I try to make everybody in my videos seem somewhat human, but I think it's genuinely impossible to do that with James Marcus. Anyway, remember how I mentioned that James Marcus was extremely paranoid? Well, he had good reasons to be paranoid. Oswald E. Spencer wanted to take full control over Umbrella, and Dr. James Marcus stood in his way. Spencer was also threatened by James Marcus. He did create the prototype T-virus, and if he showed his new research at the executive board meeting, he could probably use it to gain full control over the company. And the thing is, that's exactly what James Marcus was planning on doing. So in 1988, 10 years after the training facility was closed, Spencer sent in a team to assassinate his former partner, and the team was led by William Birkin and Albert Wesker, James Marcus' trusted proteges. James Marcus was working on the Queen Leech when he was gunned down by the team. During the commotion, the Queen Leech fell near his body, and seeing his corpse as food, it would begin to consume him. Once it made it to his brain, it slowly gained his memories. I'm like 98% sure that's not how it works. Anyway, before I go any further, I want to take a small pause and ask everyone who's watching this video a question. What makes you you? Is it your body that makes you you? Is it your DNA? Is it your brain? Or is it your memories and experiences? For me, I think it's my memories and experiences that make me who I am. And in the case of Dr. James Marcus and the Queen Leech, I think the Queen Leech truly became Dr. James Marcus, and not a new entity or just the Queen Leech thinking it's Dr. James Marcus, as a lot of people like to say. Because I think the Queen Leech truly became Dr. James Marcus, I will be going over the events in RE0, unlike some people. Not pointing the finger at nobody. But so don't nobody get confused, I will be referring to Dr. James Marcus from this point as Dr. Queen Leech James Marcus. Yes, I will be saying Dr. Queen Leech James Marcus every time I'm talking about Dr. Queen Leech James Marcus. It took the Queen Leech a full decade to completely resurrect Dr. James Marcus, and in the year 1998, Dr. Queen Leech James Marcus opened up his eyes once again, and Dr. Queen Leech James Marcus wanted revenge on Umbrella. In May 1998, Dr. Queen Leech James Marcus began to take his revenge on Umbrella. Dr. Queen Leech James Marcus caused an accident at the Arclay laboratory. This would lead to the new Epsilon strain to spread throughout the lab, which would lead to the laboratory's abandonment. Likely due to the recent loss of the Arclay laboratory, Umbrella tried to reopen the training facility, and Marcus' former apprentices Albert Wesker and William Birkin oversaw this reopening. On the 23rd of July 1998, the Ecliptic Express was sent to the training facility. However, Dr. Queen Leech James Marcus attacked the train, killing and turning most of the passengers into zombies. 2 hours later, STAR's Bravo team arrived at the Arclay Mountains. They were there to investigate a series of cannibalistic murders. There they separated, and Rebecca Chambers, the team's medic and rear security, came across the Ecliptic Express. On the Ecliptic Express, you will meet former Marine Billy Cohen. Once the train began to move, they found themselves at Umbrella's training facility. Once they arrived, they were being watched by William Birkin and Albert Wesker. However, they weren't the only ones watching Rebecca and Billy. Dr. Queen Leech James Marcus was also watching the pair, as well as watching William Birkin and Albert Wesker. Dr. Queen Leech James Marcus would interrupt Wesker's and Birkin's surveillance. He told the two that he was the one who attacked the Ecliptic Express, as well as helped spread the virus throughout the Arclay laboratory. He also revealed his motives and his identity. After this, Dr. Queen Leech James Marcus continued to observe Billy and Rebecca. After the two defeated many of his BOWs, he realized that he had no other choice but to confront them himself. He showed the two that he was Dr. Queen Leech James. Okay, I'm not saying it there. He showed the two that he was James Marcus and began to transform. He would be killed after Rebecca noticed his weakness to light. They would use that against him, and Billy would deliver the final blow. Okay, I'm gonna say right now, trying to do this character analysis of James Marcus was actually not that easy. But let me just say what I noticed when making this video. I kind of already mentioned this in my Birkin video, but Dr. James Marcus has a lot of similarities with William Birkin. Both were ambitious researchers willing to use anyone and anything to complete their research. Both wanted more power in Umbrella, and they believed that their research could give them that. Birkin wanted an executive position, and James Marcus wanted to take over the company. Both would be betrayed and killed for their research, and both would become monsters to seek revenge. Even though you can't say James Marcus really didn't have a choice. But unlike James Marcus, Birkin actually had some people that he cared about and cared about him. And the only person I can think of that cared about Dr. James Marcus was Brandon Bailey, but Spencer separated the two. And let's not forget that the only two Dr. James Marcus felt like he could trust betrayed him. And I would say another thing that separates William Birkin and James Marcus is James Marcus tortured his test subjects as well as put children in gas chambers. That's not something that William Birkin did. I'm not saying he didn't use children and people, but he didn't put them in gas chambers and torture them. Anyway, the company motto that James Marcus reads in RE0 tells a lot about the founders of Umbrella. Power is everything to them. And whether you want to believe it or not, I think that James Marcus was planning on betraying Spencer because Spencer stood in his way to more power. The thing about Dr. James Marcus is I do believe that his goal was similar to Spencer, but the thing that separates him and Spencer is Dr. James Marcus wanted to prove his brilliance. I don't believe completing his research symbolized the goal that he and the rest of Umbrella's founders shared. For him, it's more proving his greatness. And that being said, I feel like Marcus' story would have had two possible outcomes. The first one being what actually happened. Him being so blinded by his own ambition that he can't even see the outcome of his actions, or what I call the fairy tale ending. Everything just decides to go completely right for Marcus. He managed to take full control of Umbrella, and he managed to create this new world that he wanted to create. What would happen then? For me, I feel that even if he managed to do all of this, Marcus wouldn't be satisfied. He would continue to strive for better. He would continue his research, continue trying to change humans further, but no matter what, Marcus would never be satisfied. Anyway, we about to just act like that wasn't post-production, okay? Cool, okay, everybody agree? This wasn't post-production. The first one is, most of the things that happened to James Marcus were because of his decisions. For an example, Marcus wanted researchers with qualities that he felt were great for Umbrella, and that's exactly what he got. People who only wanted power and would do anything to get that power. And the second thing is, James Marcus and Edward Ashford's death shows the true nature of Umbrella. Everyone is out for themselves. Everyone is trying to get to the top, and they don't care who they have to step on to get there. Marcus was a brilliant researcher, and his research would lead to many different T-virus strains. And after his death and resurrection, James Marcus would want revenge on Umbrella, and he would achieve this. His actions in RE0 were the catalyst for the destruction of Raccoon, the destruction of Umbrella, and the death of Spencer. So what is the message in James Marcus's story? I think the message is that if you kill something, your ass better make sure that shit is dead, because if it's not, that shit might come back for revenge. Jokes aside, I do think James Marcus's story showed the consequences of revenge and how unchecked ambition can blind you. Before I end this video, I want to say one thing. I never played RE0, but from a story standpoint, the remake has a lot to do, because this game was the start of a lot of inconsistencies and plot holes. One inconsistency being, they give James Marcus full credit for creating the T-virus, even though in many different source materials and games, it says that Spencer and Ashford contributed in the creation of the T-virus. The next game to cause a lot of inconsistencies and plot holes is Resident Evil 5. I might be saving that for another video though. Anyway, if you liked this video, you can give it a like. If you didn't, thank you for the watch time. Also, you can always comment the character you want me to do next.
War the Almighty has returned! I use my strength, my impeccable singing voice.
Next, you still here?